It is noon in Brussels at 6 a.m. in Washington. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from London. Battle lines have been drawn ahead of a crucial EU summit in Brussels where a showdown is looming over how to save the Eurozone. The leaders of Europe's two biggest economies are no closer to common ground on finding a solution after a pre-summit talks failed in Paris. German Chancellor Angela Merkel remains determined to see through austerity measures and is flatly rejecting any sharing of Eurozone debt. Behind the politics, there is the pain as European leaders debate, disagree, decide, and debate again. Millions of people across the continent are desperate for a solution. In just a moment, we'll be speaking to European economist and former advisor to the British government, Vicky Pryce. But first, we want to bring in our senior international correspondent, Matthew Chance. Matthew, talk to us about what's at stake today.
Well, this EU summit is being cast very much as a crucial one for good reason.
Matthew, Vicky, let's bring you in here. They've been describing the summit as potentially the mother of all summits. That's how it's being described at this point. And a lot of it that's being discussed, long-term solutions. But what about the short term? Because that's what's needed right now.
Absolutely. And I think what is important to remember is that there was a sort of mini summit, if you like, last week when the four...
All right. Vicky Pryce, Matthew Chance, thank you both so much. Appreciate that. Well, I want to see what newspapers around the world are saying about this. Let's begin with here, the National in the UAE, with the headline, Europe can integrate or simply disintegrate. And it goes on to say the naive belief that integrated European regulation and supervision would follow financial integration has proven to be false. It goes on to say there are now only two options: integrate ahead of markets or permit the current disintegration process to continue and await the euro's relatively quick demise. The headline in the Wall Street Journal's Europe edition is a brief history of fiscal union, and it's a comment piece that goes on to say it is too soon to say who will win this game of chicken. So far, the German Chancellor has stood her ground throughout the Eurozone's current crisis, but a look at the short history of the single currency suggests that binding rules are easier to agree than to enforce. And here in Britain, the headline in The Independent, if this last chance fails, really will be time to brace for the final crash. And it's an opinion piece that says one thing by now should be clear, even to the most die-hard Euro fanatics: the euro in its present form is a failure. A successful failure in some ways, but nonetheless a failure. And of course, you can read all those articles. Talk a little bit more now about the situation coming up in Washington and the healthcare that is being discussed at the Supreme Court. And in just about 4 hours from now, we will get a decision from the Supreme Court where the United States justices will give its decision in one of the most contentious issues in the country. President Obama calls it the Affordable Care Act. Others call it Obamacare. Since Congress passed the Universal Health Care Plan in 2010, Democrats have touted it as the president's greatest domestic achievement. The High Court's ruling will have huge political and social implications. A defeat would be a major blow to the Obama administration and shape U.S. healthcare policy for years to come. Kate Baldwin joins us now live from the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington on what this actually means, Kate.
It has a lot of meaning politically, socially, economically, legally here in the United States.
Reporting to us live from Washington. You are watching World One live from London. A government of unity for a country divided. Diplomats say Kofi Annan is proposing a Syrian government of national unity to breathe life into a peace plan that seems to have come unstuck. Violence has been increasing in Damascus, as we've been seeing from those pictures there. The seat of President Bashar al-Assad's regime in the capital. Stark evidence of that, a deadly attack on a pro-government TV station. ITN's Bill Neely reports.
To the rebels, this was a symbol of the state, so they stormed through the front gate of the television station.
And in this hour, we have just received word from Damascus that a massive explosion has taken place in central Damascus outside the Palace of Justice. Some reports are indicating a state television in Syria is reporting that it was a bomb attack. Even the opposition groups are saying the huge explosion shook most of the capital, and it took place in the Marja neighborhood. Welcome back. Well, Spain had a lot to prove in Wednesday's semi-final at Euro 2012. They are football's reigning European and world champions, but old rivals Portugal were standing between them and the chance of a record-breaking third trophy in a row. As CNN's Al Goodman reports from Madrid, it ended in joy for Spanish fans, eventually.
Spain defeating Portugal in the semi-finals of Euro 2012 and now trying to become the first team in history to win 3 major titles in a row. They won Euro 2008 4 years ago and the World Cup 2 years ago, and now they head on to face the winner of the Italy-Germany game to be played on Thursday. The crowds here gathered for hours.
Leading British lawyers says Israel is violating the UN Convention on Children's Rights. They've put out a report accusing Israel of treating detained Palestinian children at least 6 breaches of the UN Convention violating human rights. What evidence are we talking about here?
I think we need to be very clear that what we did is have an analytical, legal assessment of what the law is.
Well, we do have a response here from the Israeli embassy in London. They're saying official Palestinian textbooks and television programs glorify terrorism and suicide terrorists. As a result, under 18-year-olds are frequently involved in lethal acts. With the Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Well, Google has officially thrown down the gauntlet to its competitors, especially Apple, with the launch of its new Nexus 7 tablet. The company unveiled the device at its developers conference in San Francisco on Wednesday. But as Maggie Lake reports, so far no tech company has been able to come close to the popularity of Apple's iPad. Take a look at this.
CNN, New York.
Well, at $199, Google's tablet is around half the price of Apple's device, but will people buy it? I'm joined now by Jason Jenkins. He's the editor of technology website CNET UK. Jason, thank you very much for being with us. Is it any good?
Actually, it does look pretty good. It's so cheap. Any kind of problems you have with the device.
One of the things that Apple seems to have done well is that they are able to market their products in a way that really attracts consumers, and they are able to hone in on a market share or actually own market share in this area. Google's going to have an uphill battle to try and get in on that, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's a very tricky thing to do, but it's got an awful lot of money. And
All
it's
right,
in this
Jason Jenkins, I guess you've tried it out, so we'll have to take your word for it. Thank you very much for that. Editor of technology website CNET UK. You are watching World One live from London. Well, there won't be a new name on football's European Championship trophy this year. Portugal were the only potential first-time winners, and their tournament was ended by Spain on Wednesday. Alex Thomas is here with all the details. And Alex, I feel bad for Pedro.
Yes, you're going to hear from Pedro Pinto, not only a CNN journalist, but also a Portuguese chap. So
in Britain, the reputation of highly paid bankers is slipping a few notches lower. One of the UK's biggest banks has owned up to manipulating financial markets in a way that could have impacted millions of people. Financial watchdogs have hit Barclays with a record fine, more than $450 million. Foster has been following the story, and he joins us now. So a record $450 million fine. What does this mean for Bob Diamond, Max?
Well, when that news came through, it was a big business story. Now it's turning into, well, it's really exploding as a story, really, in the United Kingdom here. LIBOR is a massive, massive benchmark for interest rates around the world. It affects all sorts of loans and mortgage rates and credit card payments. And if that was affected, there's some question about whether or not it was affected. If that was affected...
All right, Max, I'm sure you'll have much more on that on World Business Today a little bit later on here on CNN. Max Foster here in London. Thank you so much. 36,000 people have been forced to leave their homes in the U.S. state of Colorado. A fast-moving wildfire is burning out of control. And Mari Ramos brings us more now from the CNN World Weather Center. Mari.
Yeah, this must be maybe the most destructive fire in the state's history. It's a very dramatic situation that is unfolding. Monita, let me show you a bit on the high side. So we'll continue to monitor that. Back to you.
All right, Mari, thank you. We appreciate that. You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita Rajpal. Stay with us. We'll update you of the news headlines in just a couple of minutes right here on CNN.